Still to come, the handmade cowboy boots that sell for $10,000.
When you get a job in a boot shop, you are trained to do your job. No one's going to pay you to learn to be a bootmaker.
Lisa Sorrell is hard at work in Guthrie, Oklahoma, creating yet another pair of custom cowboy boots that sell for $10,000.
It makes me sad when people assume that I'm just such a snot that I think I'm worth more than everyone else. That is certainly not the case.
Cowboy boots worth 10 grand? That's a story that begins more than 30 years ago, back when Lisa didn't even own a pair of cowboy boots.
Started sewing clothing professionally when I was 15. I left my business behind in Missouri. We got married. After 6 months in a 3-room apartment, I got bored, and I answered an ad in the paper for stitching boot tops. I had no idea what that meant, and I'd never worn cowboy boots.
Just 3 blocks from her current shop, she went to work for the late Jay Griffith,
who was just a legend in the world of bootmaking.
And Lisa was a good student.
He had a deal with Wall Drug at the time, and we were making just piles and piles of 1-row stitch pattern boot tops, which was the best training I could have ever asked for. And Jay always said that one way you could tell how good a stitcher was by looking at the back, because on the back you're not distracted by the colors, so you can really see if I made any bobbles.
After 18 months with Jay, she apprenticed under acclaimed Guthrie bootmaker Ray Dorwart, a one-time student of Jay's.
And I paid Ray for 2 months of training, and then after I finished those 2 months of training, he let me stay for 1.5 years just making boots, helping him, stitching boot tops. It was a valuable experience because the more time you can spend with a bootmaker, the better.
And when she set up her own shop, she priced her boots the same as Ray's, $8.75 a pair.
It's not because I thought by any means I was as good as Ray. I didn't want people shopping around and going, oh, I'll buy boots from her because she's cheaper.
Lisa built high-end boots from the start.
Because I didn't have many customers, I was kind of playing with the fun stuff I wanted to make.
And she got lucky. The late Tyler Beard spotted her creative work.
So that was the sort of thing that Tyler put in the book.
And included Lisa in his book, The Art of the Boot.
Being in this book really jump-started my career. And then people got the impression that, oh, she makes really fun, colorful, intricate designs. And that's how I became known. I owe so much to Tyler.
In the beginning, Lisa was making up to a dozen pairs of custom boots a month.
I still make a traditional cowboy boot that you can wear in the feedlot if you want to, but my goal is to make it so pretty that you won't want to, and possibly so expensive that you won't want to either.
But then she realized just what it cost.
I was at $1,875.
And how long it took to build those boots.
And the day I sat down and figured that out, I realized I needed to double my prices. A week or so later, this lady called me and she said, what are your boot prices? And I practically hyperventilated when I told her $3,500. And I thought she would be mad at me. And instead she said, oh, you must be really good. And that's when I realized that price influences perception.
As time passed, the one-time student became a teacher with her own YouTube channel, explaining the finer points of boot building.
This is called push skiving.
Like skiving.
So skiving is when you take a piece of leather and you thin it down at the edge at an angle so that then if something goes over the top of it, you don't have a bump or a ridge.
But where do you find a skiving knife?
1 3/4 inch.
Or the many other tools and supplies you need to build boots?
So I've got the metal shank in there. My whole bootmaking career, people have said to me, you used to be able to get this tool, but they don't make it anymore.
Long story short, Lisa discovered they do make those tools in Europe.
Once I began going to Europe and meeting shoemakers and visiting their shops, I realized, oh, they do make that tool. It's just no one's bringing it to the U.S.
Sorrell solved that problem. Beginning with skiving knives, she started a bootmaking supply business.
And before I knew it, I had over 4,000 products.
Plus, virtually any colored leather you can imagine. That's quite a stash.
Yes, I'm a hoarder.
Including this gem.
Is this not the perfect shade of turquoise? It's been so hard to find leather and tools and supplies in this business, and I feel like I'm doing my part to help it move forward.
She's even produced a 15-hour DVD course on boot building and written a book, The Art of Leather Inlay and Overlay.
It's about how to create art with leather. It's basically the big book of skiving, but that just wasn't a very exciting title. But it's about how to work with leather and how to create art with leather, and skiving is such an important part of that.
Building custom boots is not easy.
Now you can start to see how this is becoming a boot. This is the front.
It's a physically demanding skill, craft, art, and a business.
You can be very talented artistically and in a craft sense, and then if you can't run a business, you don't get to keep doing it.
It's also therapeutic.
Sometimes I do get lost in it. It is like meditation for me. I'm completely quiet and in my head when I'm doing that.
Her late daughter Paige was a talented shoemaker who found peace working in Lisa's shop, but not enough to save her from the depression that took her life at the age of 20.
After I lost Paige, it was difficult because I had invested so many of my hopes and dreams in educating her and watching her career. But it's still valuable for me to support the craft.
The one-time apprentice, who now has an apprentice of her own, has discovered a new passion.
The cowboy boot shoes, which are super fun. In the 1940s, during the war, leather was scarce, and a company called Olsen Stelzer started making shoes on a cowboy boot last. So they had the cowboy boot toe and the cowboy boot heel, but they were shoes, and I have always loved those.
Lisa still makes $10,000 custom cowboy boots, but with the cowboy shoes and the supply business, she makes only about half a dozen pair of boots a year. However, she's happy to refer you to other custom boot builders.
I like to play matchmaker.
And do anything else she can to support this craft that ever since she answered that want ad has clearly become a labor of love as well.
It's important for me to preserve the craft because it's my craft. I've spent my entire life in this craft, and I want it to be meaningful and worthwhile. I've found joy and peace in this craft, and I want other people to discover that as well.
Looks like you're well on your way to another pair of beautiful boots, huh?
I hope so.
That's it for now. We're back next time with more cool stuff from today's Wild West. I'm Mark Bedore. We'll see you down the trail. For more information on the people and places featured in today's Wild West, or to order show DVDs and books, visit todayswildwest.com. Funding for Today's Wild West provided by the Leggett Foundation,